Hey guys, tonight we're stepping into the passenger seat of a 1999 Nissan Skyline GTR. Window down, turbo humming, and that ocean breeze cutting through the LA haze like butter. You reach for the stereo, but nope, it's already off. Just the rhythm of tires on hot asphalt and the scent of surf wax and gasoline hanging in the air. Somewhere between sunset and streetlights, you realize this isn't just a joyride. It's the beginning of someone's story. A story you might think you know, but probably don't. Paul Walker's world wasn't all Hollywood premieres and fast cars. Not at first. It was scraped knees on cracked sidewalks, surfboard wax melting in the sun, and engines that coughed before they roared. It was life at full speed, but not the kind with red carpets. More like the kind where you burn your feet on hot pavement sprinting toward the waves. And yeah, you probably wouldn't survive his high school morning routine. Up before dawn, ice-cold ocean water slapping your chest, your hair still wet as you speed to class, barely dodging detention. Then again, you're not Paul Walker, and he made that chaos look like a beachside meditation. You walk into a sun-bleached living room in Glendale, California, in the mid-1980s. There's a scent of sunscreen and peanut butter lingering in the air. A fish tank gurgles in the corner. Paul William Walker IV, yeah, the fourth, is curled up on the floor, halfway between a Hot Wheels track and a pile of dinosaur books. He's not yelling or bouncing off the walls like you might expect from a future action star. He's quietly making his toy cars obey the rules of gravity. Paul is the oldest of 5, and the house is pure SoCal chaos. Mom's a former fashion model, Dad's a sewer contractor with grease under his nails. Together, they somehow raise 5 kids on a diet of backyard wrestling, boxed mac and cheese, and day trips to the beach. And Paul? He's the sweet one, the protector, the kid who brushes the sand off his baby brother's feet before they all pile into the van. Before you know it, you're in the back seat of that very van. There's no air conditioning, but the windows are down, and Paul's head is out like a golden retriever's. He's watching the waves roll in as if they're speaking to him. He doesn't need a surf instructor. He just knows. Paddling out, he looks over his shoulder once, twice, and pops up like he's been doing it forever. The board cuts cleanly. You feel your own stomach flip as he glides into a barrel and disappears for a split second. When he pops out, hair dripping, grin wide, you just know. This isn't a phase.
By the time he's 11, Paul's already doing toothpaste commercials and playing background kid in sitcoms. He's not auditioning for fame. He's just following Mom's lead. And honestly, the checks help cover soccer cleats and car parts. You sit next to him at a local studio where he's sipping orange soda from a styrofoam cup and reading his lines off a wrinkled script. He's polite. Coaches love him. Casting agents write notes like, genuine, easy to work with, not a brat. And when he gets back to school, no ego, just Paul, helping a friend with math homework, cracking jokes with the science teacher, and always volunteering for cleanup duty when everyone else bolts for lunch. He's that guy. Too good to be real. And yet, here he is. One afternoon, you walk into a garage with him. The place is cluttered with rusted lawn chairs, empty Gatorade bottles, and a beat-up 1972 Datsun 510 that he bought with his own money. He doesn't look at it like it's a status symbol. He looks at it like a jigsaw puzzle. It's got potential, he says, sliding under the chassis with a socket wrench and a grin. This isn't about horsepower. It's about peace. In a house full of kids and barking dogs, the garage is his church. And here's a quirky little truth. Paul hated wearing shoes indoors. Like, hated it. He said it messed with his balance. You'll see him barefoot on set, barefoot in interviews, barefoot while changing his oil. It's one of those little things that grounded him, literally. Biographers still debate whether Paul's early modeling gigs gave him a leg up in Hollywood or made it harder. Some say he was too pretty to be taken seriously. Others say his chiseled jawline was a golden ticket. Paul? He never really cared. Let the work speak, he'd shrug. And you'd believe him. You drive with him along PCH, windows down, music low. Not rap, not rock. Just some weird ambient synth station he claims calms his nerves. Every few minutes he reaches up and taps the ceiling of the car twice. You never ask why, but you think it's some sort of ritual. Or maybe he's just checking the roof's still there. Classic Paul. Superstitious, a little goofy, but always with purpose. At the beach, you sit beside him in the sand. He doesn't talk much. He watches the tide like it owes him answers. It's not that he's brooding. He just listens more than he speaks. And when he finally does talk, it's never about himself. It's about the swell, or the sky, or the way sea foam looks like shaving cream. He tells you he wants to be a marine biologist one day. Yeah, seriously. Fast cars and explosions are still a ways off. For now, he wants to save dolphins, study whales, protect coral reefs. It's not a PR answer. It's the kind of dream you whisper to the waves when no one else is around. As the sun sets, you walk back to the van. Paul's footprints are light in the sand, barely there, like he doesn't want to disturb anything. You sit in silence for a second, and then he turns to you and says something simple. "I'd just like it quiet." And somehow, that tells you everything. You're sitting cross-legged on a scratchy blue carpet that smells faintly of pencil shavings and forgotten PB&Js. It's 6th grade, and the classroom clock ticks way too loud for a room this sleepy. The teacher's trying to explain plate tectonics, but your attention keeps drifting, right over to the blonde kid by the window. That's Paul. And he's not doodling race cars or passing notes like the other boys. He's watching the rain slide down the glass, almost like he's tracking the way the drops zigzag and merge, turning into something new. You can tell he's not bored. He's curious. That kind of curiosity that's quiet, not showy. When he raises his hand, it's not to show off. It's because he genuinely wants to know why tectonic plates drift in the first place. And when the teacher pauses to answer, she looks relieved. Paul doesn't just ask good questions. He listens. Outside of class, he blends in, but not in a forgettable way. He's the kid who carries an extra pencil just in case someone else forgets theirs. The one who actually reads the library books they assign. Who waves at the lunch lady and always helps pick up spilled juice boxes without being asked. Teachers say things like, "He's a good one," in that tone that's half admiration, half hope. Still, don't let the good boy glow fool you. Paul's no saint. He's a prankster, gentle ones mostly. Swapping out sugar for salt in the teacher's coffee once, putting a fake lizard in the choir room piano. But he never crosses the line. It's always more wink than rebel. Like he knows life's already heavy enough, and he's here to make it lighter. You catch up with him on the school field after class. He's out there barefoot again, playing two-hand touch with his buddies. Fast. Too fast. No one can really catch him, not even the kids 2 grades above. And when he finally goes down, he laughs so hard it makes everyone else laugh too. Even the kid who face-planted into a sprinkler. By 7th grade, he's juggling school, sports, and, get this, modeling. Yeah, while the rest of the kids are discovering deodorant, Paul's already got a few national print ads under his belt. There's a framed copy of a Pampers campaign on the wall at home, which he finds super embarrassing. "At least it wasn't diapers on me," he'll mumble. But secretly, he's proud of it. Not the fame, the work. He's already starting to fall in love with the idea that doing something well is its own reward. Now picture this. His mom, Cheryl, standing in the kitchen doorway, reading off the details of some last-minute audition. Paul groans, mouthful of cereal. "Do I have to?" But then he sees how hopeful she looks, and he sighs, grabs his skateboard, and heads out. He never wanted to be a star. He just didn't like letting people down. High school rolls in like a fast tide, and here the stakes get higher. You walk through the halls of Village Christian School with him, his locker door covered in surf stickers, his backpack always unzipped, books barely contained. He's popular, but in a hey bro kind of way. Everyone knows him, but he's not flashy about it. He's got that chill swagger that makes people feel seen, not small. After school, he's at football practice, strong safety, quick, instinctive, low to the ground. Coaches call him lightning in sneakers. He hits hard, but helps you up afterward. And during off-season, he's at the track, running sprints, or back in that same garage, coaxing life out of old engines with a wrench in one hand and a can of Sprite in the other. Fun fact, he once brought a baby squirrel to school in his hoodie pocket, found it on the way to class, half frozen under a tree, kept it warm all day, fed it lettuce from someone's lunch tray, and brought it to a wildlife center after school. He never told anyone. You only found out because the janitor saw it curl up on his desk during English and freaked out.
Biographers still wonder whether Paul would have gone all in on football if acting hadn't taken over. He was good, real good, scouts noticed, but deep down, you know he was never meant for shoulder pads in stadiums. He liked movement, the feeling of flowing through space, not crashing into it. You walk with him into a college counselor's office one day. The woman hands him a stack of brochures, pre-med, engineering, liberal arts. Paul flips through them politely, but when she asks what really interests him, his eyes light up for the first time. Marine biology, he says, straight up. And it's not just talk. He's read the books, watched the docs, can name 10 species of sharks, and knows which ones are endangered. He wants to study them, protect them, maybe even live on a boat one day. Still, life doesn't wait. Acting gigs keep trickling in. Commercials turn into soap operas, guest spots into speaking roles, and eventually, he starts skipping algebra tests for callbacks. The principal's not thrilled, neither is his football coach. But Paul? He's just trying to juggle it all without disappointing anyone. That's the thing. Even with 1,000 things going on, Paul never forgets to be kind, to call his grandma, to show up for his siblings' plays and swim meets, to bring coffee for the exhausted crew on set, even if he's the lead. One night, after a school dance he didn't really want to go to, you sit with him on the hood of his car. He's still in his button-down and Vans, tie hanging half off. He stares at the stars and says, "I think I'm supposed to be doing something, but I don't know what yet." You don't answer. You just watch the night sky with him. The crickets hum, the moon hangs heavy, and for a long moment, everything feels still, and somehow, that tells you everything. The air smells like stale coffee and floor polish as you step into the fluorescent-lit lobby of a casting agency in Burbank. A fan squeaks in the corner like it's on its last summer, and across from you, there he is again. Paul. Slouched into a cracked leather chair, hoodie half-zipped, skateboard propped against his shin. He's thumbing through a wrinkled script, mouthing lines under his breath like he's reciting an alien language. This isn't his first audition, not by a long shot. He's done baby food commercials, teen heartthrob guest spots, even the occasional TV movie with titles you'd struggle to remember. But today feels different. Today, there's a hum in the air, a sense that something's about to shift. You can tell because Paul's fidgeting less than usual. He's dialed in. When his name's called, he stands like he's walking into the ocean. Calm, no nerves, just flow. You follow him down the hallway lined with faded headshots and posters for sitcoms that never made it past their pilot. The room he walks into is tiny. One table, 3 casting directors, a video camera older than your uncle's wedding suit. But Paul? He acts like they're all just friends around a dinner table. The scene is nothing special, a couple lines from a gritty cop show. But when he says them, it's like the room inhales. His delivery isn't loud, it's honest. It doesn't feel like acting. It feels like truth wrapped in flannel. He walks out without fanfare, doesn't even wait to hear back. He just shrugs, says, "Felt okay," and hops on his board. You follow, the sound of wheels on pavement echoing like applause. Within weeks, he books the part, then another, and another. Suddenly, Paul Walker's name is showing up in the kinds of opening credits people actually watch. He's guest starring on Touched by an Angel, Highway to Heaven, Who's the Boss, basically every show your aunt loved in the 90s. You watch as he slips into each role like a second skin. The troubled teen, the misunderstood jock, the guy with too much heart and not enough luck. And through it all, he stays Paul. Still driving his hand-me-down Toyota, still surfing between auditions, still helping his kid brother with algebra on weekends. But there's a shift you notice behind his eyes. Not ego, just awareness. He's starting to see this acting thing might not just be a detour. It might be the road. You catch up with him on the set of Pleasantville, where he plays the dreamboat high schooler in a world that literally turns from black and white to color. Off camera, he's cracking jokes with the crew, sharing beef jerky with the lighting guy, and debating whether time travel would actually work if you went back and changed nothing. Classic Paul, more interested in the why than the fame. One afternoon between takes, he tells you something weirdly specific. "I don't want to be famous. I just want to be good." And when you raise an eyebrow, he laughs. At acting, at life, whatever. Quirky truth? Paul used to bring a harmonica to set, not because he could play it well, he couldn't, but he liked the way it sounded echoing through trailer hallways, said it reminded him of wind through a canyon. Biographers still argue about this early phase, whether Paul's boy-next-door charm boxed him in or cracked the door open to something more. Some say casting directors saw him as the safe bet. Others believe they missed the grit underneath. Paul never bothered weighing in. He figured the roles would either grow with him or he'd grow out of them. Soon, he's headlining Varsity Blues. That's right. You're now watching him throw footballs in slow motion, bathed in Texas sweat and teenage angst. The movie's a hit. Girls scream. Billboards go up. Paul's face becomes a brand. And still, on the press tour, he talks more about the crew's work ethic and his co-star's talent than anything about himself. You're with him at a diner after the premiere. He's eating pancakes at 2 a.m., totally unbothered by the fact that he's on magazine covers now. It's just a job, he shrugs between bites. Tomorrow I'm fixing my carburetor. That's the rhythm of Paul's life. On set one day, under a car the next. 1 foot in Hollywood, 1 foot in a pair of oil-stained Vans. Even now, when agents start pitching him for lead roles in bigger projects, he drags his feet. Not because he doesn't want it, but because he wants to deserve it. You find him reading Scientific American in his trailer one day, folded page corners, highlighter notes and all. When you ask why, he grins and says, "Gotta keep the upstairs sharp, man. Can't just be a pretty face with abs." He's still studying marine biology on the side, taking night courses, writing letters to researchers. He keeps a photo of Jacques Cousteau in his wallet, right behind a gas receipt and a faded Polaroid of his siblings. The acting might be the current, but the ocean is still his anchor. One evening, you sit with him on the hood of a borrowed Jeep, watching the sun bleed into the horizon. His phone rings. It's his agent. A new script. A big one. Something about street racing and undercover cops. Paul doesn't jump, doesn't flinch, just listens, nods, then hangs up. "Sounds ridiculous," he says with a smirk. And yet, he doesn't say no. The garage smells like WD-40 and unfinished business. You're crouched next to Paul, who's elbow deep in the guts of a beat-up Mazda RX-7. It's not for a movie. It's not even for resale. It's just his. A weekend project with no deadline. He wipes grease onto a rag, then grins at you like a kid who just figured out how to cheat a vending machine. By now, Paul's face is starting to show up everywhere. Movie posters, teen magazines, even one of those weird life-size cardboard cutouts at the video store. But in this moment, he's more stoked about getting a stubborn bolt loose than any of that. That call from his agent? Yeah, he took the meeting. And sure enough, the script was ridiculous. Underground street racing, DVD players being hijacked off semi-trucks, the word NOS every 5 pages. But Paul saw something else in it. Not Oscar bait, not prestige, just fun, speed, brotherhood. Something that reminded him of the wild rides he'd already been taking with his own friends long before Hollywood called. But before the Fast and the Furious really kicks into gear, Paul's still straddling 2 lanes, the steadily rising star and the guy fixing carburetors in his mom's driveway. He tries college, again. A few semesters of marine biology at Santa Barbara, a couple anthropology courses. But every time he starts digging in, another gig pulls him back out. His professors know him by name, not because he's famous, but because he actually shows up, asks questions, and turns in decent papers. But the math? Man, the math is brutal. Paul once said the only thing scarier than a shark was a calculus final. Still, he keeps a marine mammal field guide in the glove box of his car, just in case. You follow him on one of those days where there's no set, no call time, no makeup trailer. He's got a pizza delivery job, his idea of staying grounded. He doesn't have to work it. But something about the simplicity of it, the motion, the quiet ritual of hot boxes and front doors, it calms him. He doesn't mind getting stiffed on tips, doesn't even get annoyed when people recognize him and ask for autographs instead of receipts. He just hands them the pizza, says, "Have a good one," and jogs back to the car like he's running late for recess. Quirky truth? Paul kept a pair of beat-up rollerblades in his trunk. Not for exercise, not for show, just for those rare nights when he found an empty parking garage and needed to clear his head. You'd catch him gliding in slow loops, headphones in, arms wide like he was flying. Biographers still debate whether Paul ever really wanted to leave college. Some claim he was itching for the structure, the research, the long game of academia. Others believe he used it as a safety net.
a way to pretend he wasn't already orbiting Hollywood. But if you asked Paul, he'd just shrug and say, "They're both real, the books and the cameras." And it's that duality that makes him magnetic. You're at a house party with him one weekend. Typical early 2000s chaos. Red Solo cups, bad lighting, someone's playlist stuck on Blink 182. Paul's there, off to the side, sipping a root beer float and talking with a kid about coral bleaching. Not flirting, not flexing, just listening, just being Paul. And when someone hands him a mic for karaoke, he picks a Motown song, sings it like he means it, not well, but full of soul. He's that guy. Soon enough, the hustle shifts. You watch him audition less and get offered more. Roles start chasing him. Directors start pitching movies around him. And suddenly, he's got what people in the business call heat. But instead of melting under it, he just stays cool. He still drives himself to set, still brings his own snacks, still asks everyone's name on the crew, from the camera op to the intern refilling the water cooler. One day, you catch him in his garage again, staring at an old surfboard leaning against the wall. "I think I'm gonna take a break," he says, tightening a bolt without looking up. "Go down to Baja, just for a few days. Get salty again." He doesn't say it like a man running away. He says it like a man realigning his compass. And he does it often. These little resets. Trips with no agenda. Long board mornings and taco stand afternoons. You never really know where Paul is, unless he wants you to. And honestly, that's part of the magic. Eventually, the Fast and the Furious rolls into his life like a turbocharged storm cloud. But we're not there yet. Right now, you're still sitting in the passenger seat of a car that smells like surf wax, oil, and stale churros. Paul turns to you at a stoplight, grin lazy, one hand on the wheel. "You ever think about how weird it is to act for a living?" he asks. Then, after a beat, like getting paid to pretend to be someone you already kind of are, you don't have an answer. But the light turns green, and he floors it anyway. The street smells like hot rubber and anticipation. You're crouched just beyond the reach of the headlights on the edge of an empty LA warehouse lot, watching a film crew swarm around a lineup of neon-lit cars. They're sleek, souped up, louder than necessary, and so beautiful. It's nearly midnight, and production is running behind. Someone yells, "Quiet on set," and Paul Walker steps into the frame, hoodie half-zipped, eyes soft but alert, like he's about to race someone and tell them a bedtime story. This is it, The Fast and the Furious. A movie about underground racing, loyalty, crime, and the kind of family you find rather than inherit. No one, not the studio execs, not even the cast, thinks it's going to be more than a summer flick for the tuner crowd. But Paul? He sees something else in it. He doesn't say it out loud, but you can tell. He feels it. You hang beside him during breaks. His chair is always pulled away from the group, closer to the cars. He's not being antisocial. He just likes the quiet hum of an engine cooling down more than industry gossip. When he's not on camera, he's under the hood of the Skyline GTR the crew gave him to pose with. He's not posing. He's tuning. They eventually just let him work on his own stunt cars. And let's be honest, Paul doesn't play a gearhead. He is one. That's the secret sauce. He doesn't have to fake love for high-performance machines. He knows what pistons do, how a turbo breathes, why certain tires stick better in heat. He doesn't memorize his lines. He lives them. One night between takes, he tells you he used to race illegally. Nothing wild, just a few backroad sprints for gas money and adrenaline. There's a code, he says, sipping lukewarm coffee. It's not about winning. It's about respect. Quirky truth? Paul insisted on doing a lot of his own driving in the film. The studio freaked out. The insurance people nearly had a coronary. But he was persuasive and careful. "I know the limits," he said, "and I know when to let the car do the talking." Biographers still debate what made Fast and Furious explode. Was it the timing? The cast chemistry? The sleeper cell appeal of import cars in a post-muscle car era? Or was it, quietly, steadily, Paul Walker's grounding presence in a film that could have easily flown off the rails? He wasn't the loudest, the funniest, or the flashiest, but he was real, and you felt it. Opening weekend hits, and boom, $40 million. Dom Toretto, becomes a meme. Street racing surges in popularity. Neon underglow sales go nuts. And Paul? He becomes a reluctant icon. Suddenly, kids want frosted tips again. Ride or die becomes a catchphrase. And girls across the country are asking, who's that Brian guy? You'd think it'd go to his head, but nah. The first time he sees the movie in a real theater, he sneaks in after the lights dim, sits in the back, hoodie up. He doesn't even stay for the credits, just gives a nod, mutters, "Not bad," and walks out into the night like it's just another Tuesday. But Hollywood notices. Calls start flooding in. Action scripts, cop dramas, buddy comedies. He could pick any lane. But Paul? He picks the one that lets him keep driving. Between fast films, he chooses roles that feel chill. A surfer here, a spy there, a soldier in the desert. But even with all that, he never moves to Beverly Hills. He still surfs in the same spots, shops at the same grocery store, and wears the same slightly too big jeans with the keychain looped through the belt loop like it's still 1998. You ride with him to a press junket once. He's wearing flip-flops and a t-shirt with a sea turtle on it. Someone hands him a media packet with pre-approved talking points. He looks at it, nods politely, then tosses it in the glove box and wings it during interviews anyway, says what he actually thinks. Sometimes he even forgets he's on camera, and somehow that makes everyone love him more. He starts getting invited to celebrity parties, the kind with velvet ropes and camera flashes. He shows up once, hates it, leaves early, ends up eating tacos on the curb with a group of fans who had no idea they'd run into Brian O'Connor that night. They remember it forever. He doesn't even mention it later. Instead, he talks to you about whether fish dream. No, seriously, it's a whole debate he has with himself. If they do, he says, I hope they dream in coral. Then he hands you his burrito and races barefoot across the parking lot because someone challenged him to a sprint. You realize that's what made Fast work. It wasn't just the cars or the action. It was him. Paul gave it soul. He wasn't trying to be Vin Diesel's rival. He was just trying to be human. And people could feel that. Years later, fans would quote him like a philosopher. If one day speed kills me, do not cry, because I was smiling. But back then, it wasn't a quote. It was just something he said offhand. No agenda, just Paul being Paul. You wrap that first Fast film, and Paul doesn't throw a party, doesn't make a toast. He grabs his board, hits the coast, and disappears for a week. When he returns, sunburnt and grinning, he tosses his script onto the passenger seat. They want to make a sequel, he says, and you can't help but laugh. You're in a garage that smells like salt air, motor oil, and the kind of quiet that only comes when a man really loves his own space. Not the kind of quiet that begs to be filled, but the kind that lets you breathe. There's a surfboard leaning against a workbench, a vintage snap-on toolbox in one corner, a rescued pit bull curled up on an old car seat that's seen better years. And there's Paul, mid-tinker, humming some barely there reggae song under his breath as he adjusts the carb on a dusty 70s Nova. This isn't a Hollywood hideout. There are no velvet ropes, no celebrity mechanic filming angles. It's a stripped-down slice of peace with creaky floorboards and sand tracked in by bare feet. Paul's feet, of course. Always bare when he's off camera. It's here that you learn how solitude, for him, isn't loneliness. It's freedom. When he's not filming or flying somewhere for press, he's right here. Or in the ocean, or on a hiking trail, or at an animal shelter fixing a fence because someone's husky figured out how to jailbreak. There's no entourage, no assistants taking calls for him. Paul still answers his flip phone with "yo" and still forgets to charge it half the time. People don't text him about dinner reservations. They just show up with burritos and hope he's home. You spend a weekend here with him once, no agenda. Just tools, tunes, and whatever random things on his mind. He tells you about how dolphins sleep with one eye open. Then, without missing a beat, he asks whether you think we're living in a simulation. Not like Matrix simulation, he clarifies. More like someone's dream. Maybe we're part of that. You don't know how to respond, so you hand him a socket wrench.
He nods like that's answer enough. His daughter Meadow comes by sometimes. She's young then, still wide-eyed and quiet. Paul lights up around her, but in a way that's softer, not louder. He's not trying to impress her. He's just there, attentive, present. She brings drawings. He tapes them to the garage wall like blueprints. You can feel how much he wants to protect her from the circus that chased him for most of his 20s. Quirky truth? Paul hated wearing watches, said time was better felt than tracked. So he used the sun, shadows, instinct. He'd get to appointments on time, but barely. Time's just a suggestion, he'd say, usually while jogging into a meeting, half soaked from the beach. Biographers still wonder why Paul never fully did Hollywood. He didn't move to the hills, he didn't date starlets or buy into the celebrity branding machine. Some say he was allergic to attention. Others think he just never needed it. He liked wrenching more than red carpets, preferred the scent of brake cleaner to cologne. You follow him into his small kitchen one afternoon. He's blending a protein shake that looks more like wet cement than something you'd want to drink. It's sea moss, he says, and like 15 other things I can't pronounce. He gulps it down like it's penance for having movie star genes. The fridge is mostly bare, a couple of beers, leftover Thai, a sticky note that says, "Don't forget, dog food." He lives like a man who doesn't need much. Or maybe like someone who already has everything that matters. When the fast sequels start rolling out, Paul treats them like high school reunions, equal parts nostalgia and chaos. He loves the crew. He adores Vin like a brother. But he always looks a little relieved when filming wraps and he can disappear again. You tag along to a Fast Five stunt rehearsal. Paul watches from the sidelines, arms crossed, analyzing every detail. Not like a diva, like a fan. The engines, the precision, the mechanical ballet of it all. It lights him up. Afterward, he says, "You ever think cars have memories? Like, they remember who drove them, where they've been?" You want to say that's not how machines work. But with Paul, you're not so sure. Back in the garage, he shows you something wild, a tiny surfboard carved from driftwood. Says Meadow made it. "Best trophy I ever got," he says, placing it on a dusty shelf next to an actual surf trophy and a cracked spark plug. That shelf? That's his Hall of Fame. You're standing in the middle of a muddy tent in Haiti. The air is thick with humidity and the distant whir of generators. It's been days since the earthquake, and everything here feels raw. Half-standing buildings, makeshift clinics, the sound of people trying to make sense of what's been lost. And there, in boots caked with dust, handing out water and hauling supplies like he's part of the crew, is Paul Walker. No cameras, no press, just Paul. This isn't a celebrity photo op. It's the real deal. You didn't even know he was here until someone handed you a list of volunteer names, and his was scribbled in blocky pen halfway down the page. Walker, Paul. No last name needed. That trip wasn't a fluke. Paul had founded something real, Reach Out Worldwide. Not a charity with red carpet galas or branded t-shirts. It was a lean, fast-moving crew of medics, firefighters, and logistics pros. The idea was simple. When a disaster hits, don't talk, go. Don't wait for bureaucracy. Just show up, help where you can, then disappear. And that was Paul's sweet spot. Showing up, helping, disappearing. You're with him in the back of a relief truck bouncing down a dirt road. He's passing out water purification tablets with the calm focus of someone who doesn't want thanks. The kids around him don't even realize who he is. One little boy tugs on his shirt and asks if he's a soldier. Paul just laughs and says, "Nope, just a helper." In the evenings, when the crew gathers for a breather, Paul doesn't sit at the front. He blends into the back, eating instant noodles with the rest of them, quietly checking maps and supply lists. He's not in charge, but somehow, people still follow his lead. Quirky truth? Paul used to keep a go bag in his trunk, not for movie roles, for real emergencies. Basic meds, a change of clothes, gloves, duct tape, flashlight. Just in case, he'd say. Like the world might ask something of him without warning, and he didn't want to show up empty-handed. Biographers still argue over why Paul didn't publicize this work more. Some say it was a missed opportunity to build awareness. Others believe he knew exactly what he was doing, keeping it pure, untainted by fame. You remember him saying once, "If people know your name before they see your face, they might not hear what you're really trying to say." He meant it. Back home, You find him scrolling marine wildlife articles like other people scroll social feeds. Orcas, reef degradation, coral spawning patterns. He reads about these things like someone studying blueprints for a better world. And when he talks about them, he lights up in a way that not even fast and furious press tours can touch. Someday, he tells you, I'm gonna buy a boat. Not a flashy one, just something seaworthy. I'll float out, tag some fish, come back when I'm old. It's not a fantasy, it's a plan. You're on set with him during downtime once, and someone cracks a joke about how hard it is to memorize action lines. Paul shrugs, pulls out a dog-eared marine biology textbook, and says, try remembering the reproductive cycle of a parrotfish. Everyone laughs. But you see it, the way he's more proud of that book than his script. He never stopped learning, never stopped wondering. He could be mid-shoot in Rio or Abu Dhabi, but if there was a chance to tag sea turtles with a local researcher, he was in. Even on location, his idea of downtime wasn't luxury spas. It was muddy rivers, reef dives, back alley wildlife rescues. One night, you ride with him to a community college where he's giving an anonymous donation to a marine biology department. No press, no photos, just a note tucked into an envelope. Keep it wild, keep it weird, keep learning. He believed that stuff. He once told you humans should live like coral reefs, every action connected, every structure dependent on the last. You mess with the balance, he said. You mess with everything. And maybe that's what he was, a quiet reef in a loud ocean, holding things together under the surface. There's a photo he kept in his garage, a candid taken on a disaster trip. Paul, sunburned and sweaty, cradling a rescued puppy in one arm and a water pump schematic in the other. No smile, just focus. When asked why he went to all these far-off places, he'd just shrug. Because I can, and I should. You think about that a lot. You're riding shotgun in a dusty silver Tacoma, windows down, Paul at the wheel, flipping through FM stations with one hand while steering with the other. You're on the road to nowhere in particular, some dusty side street out past Mulholland, the kind of LA road where coyotes outnumber Ubers. And in the back seat, a cooler full of sodas, a beat-up longboard, and a second pair of shoes that definitely aren't his. Those are Meadows. She's not here today, off visiting family, but her presence rides with you anyway. Her drawings are still clipped to the visor, her favorite hoodies tucked behind the passenger seat. Paul glances at it once and smiles. This one smells like her, he says, half laughing, half sighing. Being a dad changed him. Not in a headline kind of way. He didn't suddenly become perfect or settle into some hallmark version of adulthood. But he softened, sharpened, became more awake, more anchored. You see it when he talks about her, not in long speeches but in little phrases. She nailed her spelling test, or she asked me if sharks sleep with teddy bears. The kind of sentences that glow with affection so quiet it could almost be missed. Paul didn't parade fatherhood around. He protected it. Meadow wasn't a prop in his brand. She was his world. And that meant the world stayed out of it as much as possible. Even when Fast and Furious blew up into a global phenomenon, when fan meetups turned into stadium events, he made sure Meadow's life didn't become a photo op. School, home, normalcy. He showed up at parent-teacher conferences in jeans and Vans like every other guy in line, even if he'd flown home from Dubai the night before. That balancing act, it wasn't easy. You saw it most during filming. Long days, foreign shoots. The temptation to just send a gift, a call, a text. He hated that. Presence matters more than presence, he'd say. So he built in time, flew home between shoots, zoomed through rap parties just to get on a red-eye back to LA. Once flew 10 hours just to walk her to class one morning. Quirky truth? Paul taught Meadow how to drive in an empty Home Depot parking lot, using a beat-up '94 Civic. Not because it was safe, but because it stalled just enough to teach patience. Biographers still dissect the relationships behind the Fast franchise. Was the brotherhood real? Was the cast chemistry as deep as fans believe? The answer, if you'd seen them together off camera, is simple. Yes. Especially between Paul and Vin. They fought like brothers, teased each other like brothers, sat in silence like brothers. And when Paul introduced Vin to Meadow, it wasn't just a castmate meet and greet. It was an invitation into his real life. You remember one evening, post-filming, Everyone gathered on a beach. Crew members, stunt drivers, sound guys. Paul's idea. No press. Just music and salt water. At some point, he and Vin broke into a wrestling match in the surf, both laughing so hard they almost forgot to breathe. Later, Paul sat next to Jordana Brewster by the bonfire. They weren't talking about plot twists or character arcs. They were trading stories about their siblings, about weird uncles and awkward Thanksgivings. Real stuff. That's how he connected, with sincerity. No script required. You see it again at a charity car event where he meets a young fan named Eli. Kid's got cerebral palsy, a modified wheelchair, and a racing game obsession. Paul kneels down eye level and says, "You like torque or top speed?" They talk for half an hour about gear ratios and paint jobs. Later that week, Paul ships him a custom steering wheel with a note. "Can't wait to see what you build next." He wasn't trying to be a hero. He was just trying to be decent. His inner circle was small but fiercely loyal. Mechanics, surfers, animal rescue folks. Guys who knew him before the limos and never cared about premieres. They'd text him about engine trouble, not premieres. He liked that. You walk with him one morning, coffee in hand across a quiet strip of beach. He's barefoot, naturally, jeans rolled to the ankles, a dog named Boone zigzagging ahead in the sand. "She's growing up fast," he says. "I keep thinking I've got time, but..." He doesn't finish, just sips the coffee and watches the waves. There's a stillness to him, not the checked-out kind, the tuned-in kind, like every breath is intentional, like he's living a few inches closer to the moment than the rest of us. He pulls a tiny shell from the sand and hands it to you. "Meadow would like this one," he says. It's weird. The best ones are always the quietest. And just like that, you know he's not just talking about seashells. You're finally here. The infamous Glovebox. It's not some chrome-plated Hollywood prop. It's dusty, scuffed, and still smells faintly of beach air and gas station gum. You're in Paul's Skyline GTR, the car that turned heads in Fast and Furious. But this isn't a movie moment. The parking lot is empty. The engine's off. No spotlight. No soundtrack. Just you, him, and that little compartment everyone assumes holds secrets. You reach over. He doesn't stop you. Just raises an eyebrow and shrugs like, "Go ahead, find out." You pop it open. No sunglasses, no fam letters, no studio parking passes, no mysterious notebook with a secret life plan. Just a pack of half-melted gum, a crumpled receipt for fish tacos, a tiny faded Polaroid of Meadow holding up a crooked seashell, and a yellow post-it note, creased at the corners, barely legible. It says in his sharp, slanted handwriting, "Be worth what you waste." That's it. And weirdly, it floors you, because you were expecting flash, a relic, a memento that would explain him. Instead, you get something heartbreakingly human, something that speaks louder than any press junket or tribute montage ever could. This is the Glovebox of a man who never needed to archive his life. He lived it. You look at Paul and he grins like you knew you'd be confused. "I used to keep a wrench in there too," he says, "but it rattled too much, annoyed the hell out of me." Quirky truth? Paul rotated what he kept in there every few weeks, not out of boredom, but ritual. It was his way of clearing space, physically and mentally. Every object served its time, told its story, and made room for the next. Biographers still puzzle over the post-it. They've quoted it, speculated about it, even blown it up in tribute murals. Some say it's about time, making the most of every second. Others say it's about resources, or maybe guilt, or some deeper philosophy. Paul never clarified. He probably liked it better that way. Later that day, you stop at a gas station with him. He fills the tank, then disappears inside for 10 minutes. Comes back with a Gatorade, a dog treat, and a plastic toy shark. "Found it in the clearance bin," he says, tossing you the shark. Looked lonely. You drive without speaking for a while. Just the road rolling under you, the hum of the engine, the quiet flicker of sunlight on the dash. Eventually, Paul breaks the silence. "Most people keep too much in their glove box," he says. "Stuff they don't need. Expired registration, broken pens, receipts from 7 years ago." He glances over. "You ever think we do that with our heads too?" You don't answer right away, but you think about that question for days. He didn't treat his car like a status symbol. It wasn't a shrine or a toy. It was a tool, a vessel for movement, clarity, stillness. He'd tinker with the wiring one morning and drive across state lines the next, just to think.
The Glovebox wasn't where he stored nostalgia. It was where he reset.
There's a gas station notepad wedged between the seat and the console. Paul grabs it and jots something down mid-drive. Not lyrics, not lines, just a sentence. Everything ends. That's the deal. So make it good. He folds it and puts it in the glove box, next to the Post-it, next to the gum. It joins the rotating exhibit of a man who never once treated the ordinary like it wasn't sacred. You ask him once, why keep all this in here? He grins, because someday someone's gonna open it and expect a treasure. You smirk, and what do they get? Exactly what I left them. Later that week, someone on set asks him what the glove box actually means. They'd heard a rumor it held a secret contract, or a farewell letter, or some crazy Hollywood Easter egg. Paul just shakes his head and says, just the good stuff. You're there the day a fan gets to sit in his car after a meet and greet. The kid's shaking, practically vibrating with excitement. Paul hands him the keys and lets him turn on the engine. And then, just before he lets the moment end, he pops the glove box open for him. Take one, he says, gesturing to the contents. The kid takes the toy shark. Paul replaces it that night with a rock. Not a shiny one, just something he picked up during a hike. He scribbles on it with Sharpie, "You matter." You see now that it wasn't just a glove box. It was a kind of quiet poetry, a place where the little things mattered most, where scraps became symbols, where ordinary things told extraordinary truths. And that's Paul. Not the cars, not the abs, not the magazine covers. Just a man who could make a gum wrapper feel like scripture. You're walking beside him on a studio backlot, the kind where everything looks like a set because, well, it is. Fake storefronts, fake streets, even fake weather machines when the budget allows. But the tension, the long hours, the push to squeeze out one more take before the light's gone, that's all real. And lately, you can feel it pressing in around Paul. At first, it was subtle. A yawn here, a 1 sec that turns into 10, a tired rub of his eyes in between setups. But slowly, it snowballs. More travel, tighter schedules, shorter breaks between filming and press tours. His face is still on posters. The franchise is printing money. But behind the scenes, the cracks are showing. He tells you, one night while polishing the rims of his GTR, I just want to breathe, man. And you get it, because the world doesn't leave him alone anymore. Every gas station stop is a photo op. Every beach trip turns into fan encounters. And Paul, being Paul, never turns anyone away. He poses, he smiles, he signs. But you can tell, it's beginning to cost him. You're with him during a particularly packed press tour. 3 cities in 4 days, 2 back-to-back junkets, then a red carpet squeezed in before a late-night interview. By the time he's back in his hotel, his voice is gone. His face is frozen in that press-ready smile. And yet, when the elevator doors close, and it's just the two of you, he slumps against the wall like he's been hit by a wave. This ain't what I signed up for, he says. I just wanted to drive cars and make cool stuff with my friends. He's not angry. He's just tired. Quirky truth? Paul used to travel with his own pillow. Nothing fancy, just this lumpy, sun-faded thing he called Wilson. He swore it helped him sleep in any hotel room, no matter how loud or bright or 5-star it looked from the outside. Biographers argue about this chapter in his life. Some say he was pulling away from fame. Others think he was just recalibrating, figuring out what version of the Hollywood machine he could actually live with. You think the answer's simpler. Paul was building an escape ramp. not to run, but to return to something truer. You see it on set when he finishes a scene and immediately wanders off, not to the green room, but to the crew tent to talk cars with the grips. You see it when he volunteers to take a smaller trailer, or when he brings his own lunch instead of ordering from the menu. He's never rude, never demanding, but he resists the gravity of the star system at every turn. You ride with him one day to a photo shoot for a men's magazine. Tight jeans, shirtless, oil smudged for no reason at all. He laughs through it, but afterward, when he pulls his hoodie back on, he mutters, "I don't even look like that in real life." It's not insecurity, it's honesty. He doesn't want to be projected onto. He wants to be seen. There's a fan who corners him in a grocery store, wants to talk about Fast Five. Paul listens politely. Then the guy says, "Man, you've got the dream life." Paul just smiles. "Nah, I've got a life. Dream's a strong word." Then he grabs 2 bags of frozen peas and disappears down the next aisle. You see it again when he starts saying no. No to certain scripts. No to roles that feel like retreads. No to interviews that only want to talk about abs and explosions. His team panics. Studio execs worry. But Paul, he's cool with it. Let it slow down, he tells you. Let it breathe. And when the industry doesn't like that answer, he disappears for a bit, goes off-grid, hikes with Meadow, volunteers quietly, works on his cars. You get postcards sometimes, handwritten, no return address. Once, just 3 words, "Still me, still here." Another time, "The ocean said hi." There's this one week where he skips a wrap party to go help with wildfire relief. No announcement, just leaves a note on the makeup trailer mirror. "Thanks for the ride. I'll catch the next one." Later, someone posts a blurry photo of him digging trenches with a group of exhausted firefighters, wearing borrowed boots, dirt smudged, laughing. He looks more alive than he has in months. That's the duality of Paul. He loved making movies, sure, but only when they felt real. Only when the people around him were grounded. Only when the noise didn't drown out the soul of it. And when the noise got too loud, he built silence. With his hands. With his time. With his glove box full of gentle reminders. You ask him once if he ever misses the simpler days. He doesn't even blink. "I never left them," he says. "I just carry them with me now." And somehow, that tells you everything. You're gliding down a quiet stretch of freeway at 2:13 a.m. It's the kind of night where the sky looks velvet and the world feels paused. No traffic, no distractions. Just Paul in the driver's seat, one hand loose on the wheel, the other tapping out a beat on his thigh. The dashboard glows soft orange. The stereo hums something mellow, old soul, maybe Otis Redding. And for the first time in a while, Paul looks rested. Not in the slept 8 hours kind of way, in the "this is exactly where I need to be" kind of way. He's not driving to anywhere. He's driving through something. A mental fog, a lingering weight, the kind of quiet restlessness that doesn't speak until you silence everything else. You ride along in that silence, letting the white lines blur by like soft little lullabies. "This is my reset," he says suddenly, eyes never leaving the road. Just me, the car, and no one needing anything from me. It's not that he resents being needed. He loves his daughter, his friends, his team. But out here in this moment, he belongs to no one but the road. And you realize Paul never needed fame. He needed freedom. And the freeway, that's where he finds it. You've done this loop before. No GPS, no destination, just vibes. Usually ends with a sunrise or a burrito or a detour into some canyon road so tight you'd think it was stitched by hand. Quirky truth? Paul talked to his car, not in the crazy guy yelling at his engine way, in the "hey girl, you feelin' this road" kind of way. And the car? It seemed to respond. Never broke down, never misbehaved, like it understood who was behind the wheel. Biographers still debate whether Paul was reckless or just deeply in tune with risk. Some cite the late-night runs, the track days, the high-speed charity rides. But if you were there, if you watched him, really watched, you'd know. Paul didn't chase chaos. He danced with it, controlled it, respected it. He always said, "You can flirt with the edge, but don't marry it." And he meant it. He took courses on stunt driving, Knew tire temperature, studied friction, knew when to brake, when to breathe, and when to let the machine speak. This wasn't a man who gunned it for the hell of it. This was a student of motion, a poet with a gas pedal. You remember one night he let a fan ride shotgun during a private track event. She was nervous, clutching the seatbelt like it was a parachute. He just looked at her and said, "It's not about going fast. It's about feeling in control of the fast." Then he took the corners so smooth it felt like floating. The girl cried afterward, happy tears. Paul handed her a Gatorade and said, "Told you she'd take care of us." She thought he meant himself. He was talking about the car.
There's this back road out near the Angeles crest. Tight turns, no streetlights, just trees and sky and possibility. You drive it with him once, long after midnight. Halfway through, he cuts the lights for 2 seconds. Total darkness. You panic. He doesn't. Then he flips them back on, still coasting, still calm. "See," he says, "it's not about sight. It's about trust." Another time, you're with him in a parking lot after a long day. He's spinning donuts, slow and lazy, more dance than stunt. Meadow's watching from the sidewalk, laughing, holding a soda cup bigger than her face. After a few spins, Paul parks, gets out, lifts her onto the hood. "You want to learn how to drive like that?" he asks. She nods like it's oxygen. "Then first," he says, "you learn how to stop." That was always the part people missed. Paul loved speed, sure, but he revered control. The art of stopping, of knowing when to stop. The patience, the listening. He had a theory. Cars are like people. You don't force them. You learn them. One night, he drives all the way to the desert just to watch a meteor shower. No tent, no camera. Just a sleeping bag, a cup of gas station coffee, and the open roof of his beat-up Bronco. He parks, climbs onto the hood, and lies there for hours, eyes wide. You ask him if he makes wishes. "Nah," he says. "I just listen. Sometimes they whisper." Later, back on the road, he glances over at you and says, "Everyone talks about the destination. But for me, it's the drive." And you believe him. Because out here, headlights slicing through the dark, the city asleep behind you, and 1,000 miles of maybe ahead of you, Paul isn't an actor, or a racer, or a dad, or a hero. He's just a man, moving forward. And somehow, that tells you everything. You're standing at the edge of a quiet parking lot in Valencia, California. It's a bright, breezy Saturday, and the sky is pulling off one of those ridiculous LA performances, impossibly blue, not a cloud in sight. Paul's here, smiling, the kind of smile that tells you he's exactly where he wants to be. No cameras rolling, no velvet ropes, just a charity car meet filled with gearheads, families, and a few eager fans with Sharpies in their pockets. It's an event for Reach Out Worldwide, the nonprofit he built with his own hands. Relief supplies, medical teams, rebuilding efforts. This is what made him light up. This was the mission. But today's not about logistics. Today's about good people, cool cars, and raising money for something bigger than himself. You watch him greet every person who walks up. No rush, no impatience. He takes pictures, signs hoods, asks questions about their cars, even slips a $100 bill to a guy who says he's trying to restore a Civic like his dad's. And then, just for fun, he spots a red Porsche Carrera GT parked nearby, his friend Roger's car. "Mind if we take her for a spin?" Paul asks. You can tell the itch is there, not to speed, to feel. That connection between man and machine, the breathing rhythm of the clutch, the moment the engine hums back like a satisfied sigh. They buckle in, a quick laugh, no fanfare, then they pull away. It's quiet after that. People go back to their conversations, a little more subdued, a few glances down the street. Then, sirens. You don't want to believe it. Not here, not him. But time slows. You run, you push past strangers, and in the distance, smoke curls upward like a question no one can answer. You don't see the crash site right away. You feel it. The silence, the sinking, the disbelief. Paul Walker, brother, father, helper,
Driver, gone in an instant. Biographers would say it was sudden. Fans would say it was unfair. Friends? Friends were shattered. Vin couldn't speak. Tyrese broke down. Meadow disappeared from the public eye for weeks. But you? You just stood there, still, trying to hold on to something that already felt like smoke. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. A man known for speed, lost to it. But here's the thing. It wasn't recklessness. It wasn't a joyride gone wild. It was a trusted friend, a familiar road, and a car that was notoriously difficult to control. A charity event, a short loop around the block, and in seconds, a legacy frozen in fire. In the days that followed, tributes poured in. Not the kind that feel performative. These were raw, personal. Friends posting photos from family barbecues. Fans leaving flowers at car meets. People sharing stories about the time Paul bought them lunch, fixed their car, or simply listened. Biographers still argue how to write the ending. Was it tragic irony, a warning tale, a poetic circle? But if you were there, if you knew him, you'd write it differently. You'd write it like this. A man with dirt under his nails and surf wax in his back seat, who knew how to hold silence like it was sacred, who laughed louder around dogs than movie execs, who loved fast cars but never needed the world to know why. You return to his garage a few weeks later. It's exactly as he left it. A wrench still on the floor, a half-empty Gatorade. That same drawing from Meadow, sun-faded but intact. And on the workbench, the Glovebox note, still folded, still waiting. Be worth what you waste. You sit with that for a long time. You sit until the light fades, and somehow that tells you everything. You're standing in a parking lot in Tokyo of all places, and somehow he's still here. Not physically, no, but in the row of meticulously detailed skylines, in the skyline decals and 4-Paul bumper stickers, in the hush that settles when someone starts his favorite engine, a low, throaty growl that sounds like a memory warming up. 10 years have passed, and still, Paul Walker drives on. You walk through the rows of modified cars, built not just for speed, but for tribute. Each one tuned with care, paint jobs inspired by Fast and Furious liveries, hoods signed in silver marker, and yes, glove boxes that carry post-it notes with scribbled messages like, "Ride in peace, brother." It's not just Tokyo. He shows up at car meets in Miami, in Rio, in Johannesburg, even small towns with parking lots barely big enough for a donut. Someone always rolls in with a sticker that says, "For Paul." Someone always blares a Fast Five soundtrack song, and someone always, without fail, parks with an empty passenger seat, just in case. You'd think tributes would fade, but Paul wasn't just a face, he was a feeling, and feelings don't go quietly. Even the Fast franchise evolved to carry him forward. That moment in Furious 7, you know the one, the two cars at the fork in the road, the music swelling, Dom glancing over at Brian one last time. It broke everyone. Not because it was flashy, but because it was simple, honest, true, and the cultural debate began. Biographers wondered, did Paul's death change how we talk about legacy, about male friendships, about gentleness wrapped in horsepower? Some say yes, some say it only confirmed what people already knew, that beneath the nos and neon, these stories, his story, mattered. You visit a mural in Brooklyn, his face, larger than life, wrapped in wind and painted against the night. Below it, a quote, "If you can't be kind, be quiet." Paul never said that exactly, but you know what? He could have. In Brazil, someone named their dog Walker. In Australia, a kid with a spinal condition races RC cars under the name Brian O. In Los Angeles, a nonprofit still runs supply convoys into disaster zones, carrying a small photo of Paul taped to the dashboard like a compass. And those Reach Out worldwide teams, they never stopped. They're still first to arrive in torn-up towns and flooded neighborhoods. Volunteers still cite him in orientation. We don't do this for attention. We do it because it's needed. One team lead keeps Paul's old field hat in his gear bag, faded, sweat-stained, still smells faintly of sunblock and eucalyptus. He swears it brings good luck. You're at a car show in Germany when a father and daughter pull up in a replica Supra. Orange, loud, perfect. The little girl is wearing a Paul Walker tee 2 sizes too big. Her dad kneels beside her and says, That's the guy who made me want to be a better man. It's not just about cars. It's about how he moved through the world, with kindness, with stillness, with intention. One day, you pass a quiet turnout on the Angeles Crest Highway. No sign, no landmark, but someone left flowers, a small die-cast GTR, and a folded note that reads, "Still saving me, 1 mile at a time." You sit there for a while, watching clouds roll past the valley, listening to the wind through the trees. It almost sounds like tires on pavement, like distant laughter, like that line from Paul that keeps echoing even now. It's not about the destination. Yeah, it really wasn't. You go to one more car meet. Local this time. Small. A gas station lot with cracked concrete and string lights pulled from someone's backyard. No big-name guests. Just folks with beat-up Civics, hand-detailed Subarus, and a love for the road. And then, quietly, a guy pulls in with a GTR. Not flashy, not loud, just perfect. He doesn't rev it. He just parks it, pops the glove box, and slips in a folded piece of paper. Leaves it there. Doesn't say a word. Because sometimes, the loudest tributes are the quietest ones. And somehow, that tells you everything.
You're sitting under soft stage lights in a small auditorium, and all eyes are on her. Meadow Rain Walker. She steps up to the podium, not with fanfare or flashing lights, but with the kind of grace that doesn't need to announce itself. Her voice isn't loud, her dress is simple, and yet, the whole room leans in. She's older now, of course, but somehow still carries the same gentleness Paul did, the same patient pause before speaking, the same way of holding eye contact like it's a quiet promise. "I'm not here to fill anyone's shoes," she says softly. "I'm just here to keep the path lit." It's a foundation event, something for ocean conservation, something her dad would have loved, and you can feel it. Every part of this moment is wrapped in him, in his values, his causes, his calm. Meadow never chased fame. She didn't ride her last name into the spotlight. For a long time, she barely appeared at all. But slowly, purposefully, she began to step into the light, not to be seen, but to be useful. You walk with her after the speech. No cameras follow. She bends down to tie her shoe, laughs when it loops wrong, wipes her hands on her jeans like she's about to go build something. And in her eyes, you see him, not in a spooky or sentimental way, in the way she looks at the ocean, in the way she listens, in the way she chooses when to speak, and when to let silence do the talking. Quirky truth? Meadow still keeps one of Paul's old flannels in the trunk of her car, wears it when she's traveling, says it helps her sleep on planes, still smells faintly like motor oil and cedar wood. Biographers now have a new name to include in Paul's legacy, hers. Not because she's inherited it, but because she's expanding it. She's taken that quiet steadiness, that private conviction, and found her own way to amplify it. She's launched ocean partnerships, funded scholarships, created programs for young people interested in environmental science. Her speeches aren't viral, they're true, and they reach who they need to. You meet one of her team members, a young marine biology student from Hawaii. She tells you Meadow showed up to a cleanup dive once with zero warning. No cameras, just flippers, gloves, and a big grin. Spent 6 hours hauling trash out of a reef trench, ate soggy granola afterward, and asked everyone about their favorite fish. She's like him, the girl says, but with her own frequency. You see it again at a quiet memorial drive. Meadow shows up with a handwritten sign taped to her dashboard, "Drive kind." That's it. She doesn't speak that day, just hugs everyone, stays till the end, helps stack chairs, then disappears into the night with the windows down and the stereo low. Fans keep her at a respectful distance. They get it. She's not here to reenact his legacy. She's here to protect it. One day, you're with her in the old garage, Paul's garage. It's mostly untouched, a little dustier now, some tools rusted, but the flannel's still hanging where he left it. And in the corner, a new surfboard, her board. She sees you looking at it and says, "I'm not very good yet." You tell her that's not the point. She nods, then adds, "But I keep going back."
Later, she opens the glove box of that same GTR, the one you've sat in before. It still holds some of the old bits, the post-it, the receipt, the Polaroid. But now, it holds something new too, a folded letter, written by her, to him. She doesn't read it out loud, just closes the compartment gently and rests her hand there for a second, like sealing a promise. You ask what it said. She just smiles and replies, "It said I'm okay." It's not closure. It's continuation. Because some people don't leave behind footprints. They leave behind paths. And Meadow? She's still walking his, planting new markers along the way. Sometimes barefoot, sometimes tearful, always forward. You're back in the car, the same one you've ridden in so many times before, Paul's Skyline GTR. The engine isn't running, the lights are off, everything's still. The glove box sits quietly in front of you, familiar, scuffed at the edges, hinged like it knows how to open itself by now. You don't rush, you don't need to. You know what's in there. But this time, it's not about what you'll find. It's about what it means. You open it. The gum's long gone. The post-it is still there, though. The same yellow square with the words, "Be worth what you waste." The ink has faded just a little, but the weight of it hasn't. Next to it, Meadow's letter. A new receipt, too. This one folded around a pressed flower. Someone's tribute, maybe. Or maybe just a moment saved from a roadside stop. There's a photo of Paul, tucked behind it all. It's one you haven't seen before. He's laughing. Not camera laughing. Real laughing. Head tilted back, eyes closed, hands greasy from a half-fixed engine. It's blurry, off-center. Perfect. You reach out, close the compartment gently, let it latch with that soft click, and then you just sit there, listening to nothing, feeling everything. Because here's what no one really tells you. Legacy isn't a statue or a filmography or a viral quote. It's the glove box. It's the thing people keep opening years later, hoping to understand who you were, and finding something small, unremarkable, and profoundly true. And Paul? He knew that. He didn't store his greatness in grand gestures. He left it in the little things, in kindness that didn't need an audience, in laughter that didn't need a punchline, in cars tuned not for trophies but for joy. And now, you carry it. Every time you hold space for someone else. Every time you choose quiet over noise. Every time you decide that the simplest part of life might be the most sacred. Because the glove box wasn't just a compartment, it was a mirror. And when you look into it, what you see staring back is a life that was fully lived, moment by moment, smile by smile, mile by mile. And it never really stopped.